Good morning. Good morning. So glad you are here and got up this morning for this.
Hi.
Good morning. You're welcome to show your face or not, whatever feels best for you. I am just putting some tunes on for us. I listened to my YouTube stuff on double speed, so it was starting to play the song on double speed. I was like, that's not going to work. Make it that way. We're just going to give a few minutes for others who are joining us to get in here. So welcome them as
Sure.
So glad that you are here, and this is being recorded, so that way you can go back and listen to this again. So if you're joining us live or you're watching the replay, so glad that you are here. I know that what we're going to talk about today could make all the difference for you. So we're just going to hang out here for a couple of minutes to make sure that everybody gets in here that's hopping on live. And so if you're watching the replay, you could probably fast forward like the next minute or two. And then we'll get started, or go grab something nice to drink and find that cozy spot and get out a notebook, because you're going to want a piece of paper today. If you've been a part of the event that we did on Thursday, you got the Design Your Dream Life Planner. You should have gotten this emailed to you. So if you have this, grab this, because this will be super helpful. But if you don't, that's okay. Just grab a piece of paper, okay? So people are going to be popping in here. So excited that you guys are here. Can you believe it's January 15th? If you're watching this live, we got snow. And Kim, I don't know how it is over on your side, but everybody here thought it was going to be this huge snowstorm. And I woke up and I'm like, I can see the grass.
Ours, yeah, I can still see the grass. Ours really didn't even start till this morning.
Okay.
And, so we went over to my mother-in-law's. It was her 90th birthday yesterday. So
Very fun.
it doesn't really stop us unless it's, a foot deep.
Well, we're from the north, so we're used to, like, if it's going to be a snowstorm and life is going to shut down, it means we're talking feet of snow, right? So we just laugh because down in southern Illinois, it's like it's never what they think it's going to be. I'll just say that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Kelly's
a dusting.
California, so hopefully she doesn't have any snow where she is. So
I don't, but I wish we need it though.
Yeah, I bet. I think I would miss not having that season, at least getting some kind of dusting or something once in a while. So
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
What part of California are you in, Kelly?
Actually, we're right smack dab in the middle. The little town that we're in claims to be the exact center of California.
Very fun. That's a great claim to fame. So you can get anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Equidistant. I feel like being in the Midwest, if I can get to either side of things. Because we've got one kid on the East Coast, one kid on the West Coast. And so I figure if we're in the middle, they can get to us and we can get to them. So yeah. Well, so good. So glad that you guys are here today and that we're going to be taking some time to really start taking these dreams that maybe are in your head still, maybe they're somewhat down on paper, but really start to see them, lived out. So let me just make a disclaimer really fast, because you may hear some things in the background. I planned this workshop date and time weeks ago. My husband, a couple days ago, decided to invite this group of like 10 guys over to do some training on our shooting range. So if it sounds like things are going on in the background, they are, but please know that I'm safe and I'm not in a war-torn area if that is what happens. My dogs are in the garage so that way they're not barking at all the things going on outside, and we are going to focus. One of my friends was sharing the story this week where she was doing yoga and she was trying to find that balance, right? And so she's focusing and her dog is playing with a squeaky toy and up in her face, right? Because imagine you're doing yoga, you're on your mat, you're trying to focus in so you can balance that pose and get the most out of it. And her dog is just, squeak, 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 squeak. And so she was telling the story that, she's like, usually I would stop, I would take the toy away, try to get him to be with a different toy, and then it would of course disrupt her practice. Instead, the other day she decided, you know what, I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing regardless of the distractions going on around me. And so squeaky toy or whatever else is going on, she was able to find her balance, do her pose, do her practice, and still got a ton out of it. So that was a great reminder to me that sometimes I think we think, or we want life to be totally quiet or perfect around us for us to be able to, really focus on something or move forward. And I'm just going to tell you right now, like that's not going to happen. Right. So that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to focus for this next little bit. And, you know, and I don't know how you're coming in today. You may be coming in going, I am already rocking 2022. It's day 15. I'm rocking. I'm sticking with my goals. I'm still doing the things I said, you know, and you're feeling amazing. And that's awesome. And if that's you, then we want to keep that going, right? Because we want to keep that momentum going and not peter out come February or May or July, right? You are not like most people if you're still going. Most people already have dropped off by now, okay? Or maybe you're that girl who you got started and you had great intentions and you had a plan and you had all this stuff, but life has happened, right? The yappy dogs, the range outside, the things that are happening, the snowstorm, whatever it is, right? And so you're kind of just back, you're in this like, I'm not really going anywhere, but I got started, right? And I want to say, good for you. Like, good for you in getting started, because that says a lot, right? Now we want to re-inspire you to keep going, okay? Or maybe you're that girl who you're like, you know what? So far, first 15 days of the year, nothing's looked any different. I haven't done anything. I had these intentions, I had these goals, I had these things that I said I wanted to do, and I haven't. And so maybe you're feeling like, well, I guess that's just how it is, right? I might as well just accept this and just live another year like every other one. So whichever of those girls you are, I want you to know that you are in the right place, because what we're going to talk about today will help you whether you're already rocking and you want to keep going, whether you started, but now you got distracted and you're drifting, or whether you haven't even started yet. Okay. Because at any point you can choose to live repurpose. We talk about that all the time. And one of the things that I put this quote out in a message that I sent yesterday that I read this week in one of my, one of the things I was reading. It's that you cannot travel within and stand still without. Let me say that again, in case it's the first time that you're seeing or hearing that. You cannot travel within and stand still without. And I thought, wow, isn't that so true, right? That we can dream, right? We can think of all these great things in our head. And if we truly are, we should feel this like burning desire to like make it happen, right? To go out and to do something with it and not keep it all bottled up inside. And so if you've been taking some time, and if you've been, can you guys hear me, Kim and Kelly? Okay, because Nikki says she can't hear me. So I want to make sure that we're good on that. Okay. And every once in a while, I'm going to ask you guys questions and stuff like that, so you can unmute and those types of things. But I just saw Nikki's message. So hopefully, Nikki, there's something that we can fix on your end. But today, here's my intention. I want you to learn how to dream abundantly. I want you to learn how to think accurately. And I want you to learn how to act acceleratingly. I don't know if acceleratingly is a word. I think maybe I made it up, but here's the thing. My brain works in patterns, and they all started with A's and they all ended with LY. So that's how it came out. Okay, so dream abundantly, think accurately, and act acceleratingly. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. So some of you may have been a part of the event that we did on Thursday, just a couple days ago, or maybe you watched the replay and you started to dream about the things that you want to be, the things you want to have, the things you want to do in this next year in those 7 key areas. Let me review the 7 key areas in case you're brand new and you're like, what are the 7 key areas? They all start with F. So again, patterns make it easy to remember, right? And I've memorized them in this order, so I have to say them in the same order every time. Okay, so they're faith, family, friends, your field, which is whatever you do for work, whether it's working for somebody else, it's working, you're doing your own business, it's full-time taking care of, older parents or grandkids or young kids, volunteering. What do you do for work in your day? So I gotta go back because now I got off my pattern. Okay, faith, family, friends, your field, your finances, your fitness, which is anything health related. This is not just, am I going to the gym? This is mental health as well as physical health. How are you moving your body? How are you thinking? How are you eating? Like all of that goes together in fitness. And fun. Okay. Yes. Fun is on that list. And I love that because that's the one that I really needed to work on when I first got started. And I'm still really working on that one right now. So whether you were with us the other night when we were kind of talking about some of these areas, or you're just thinking about it right now, I just want to open it up to just kind of hear, when you think about those areas, which area would make the biggest difference for you if you really focused on that this year? Or you could answer, hey, what is one thing, what's one dream, what's one vision that you have for what you want that area to look like? So either which area would make the most difference for you, and then what is one thing that you would love to see happen in that area in this next year? So if you're able or willing to share, you can just unmute. Would love to hear. If you're watching the replay, write this down, right? Write down yours. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'll go. So the more I look at them, the more they just really all overlap. And every time I think, oh, this, the first time I went through, I was like, oh, I'm really lacking in this area. But just got back from my mother-in-law's and we celebrated her 90th birthday. It was yesterday, but she was very busy with lots of things. So we had breakfast. She got over 100 cards.
Wow.
From both family and friends. And it really just kind of solidified my resolve that while my field is important, I really want to get my business up and running. I have a great family, but the friendship piece has been missing for me. We've moved not far, but enough that you kind of lose contact with friends as you move 10 miles down the road, you don't go to the same church.
Yes.
So the friends piece and I read every single card that people had written her, and it was just amazing. People that she worked with, at the hospital. Well, they said 30 years ago, but I think it's more like closer to 40.
It feels like, right? Yeah. Wow.
And it was just amazing to know that, those friendships that she formed way back in the day, those people, they still get together. They still come to her house for lunch, not so much during COVID. But, and a few years ago, I had decided that was the area that I needed to work on and then didn't. So that whole friends piece, how important that is,
right?
That fills a void that even your family really can't.
Yes. You hit on two things that I heard you say. One is how all the areas interconnect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how they play off each other. So even building like what you're doing with your field right now, that's giving you more time freedom to be able to invest in those friendships, right? So we can always say like, here's my top one, right? Friends is my big one. How do these other areas help this area that's way up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So see those ones that way, especially the ones that maybe you're like, I don't really need to worry about you. Well, how could that improve that area? The other thing I heard you say is this: you've been through this process more than once. And you're going deeper each time, and you're seeing and realizing different things. And that is exactly what happens, right? Way too many people, if they even do it once, which most people don't, right? Way too many people don't go to it again and again and again. And that is really where every time I do it too, because I think I've been through the whole framework now 4 times. And every time I go through it, I get deeper. And I don't plan on ever stopping, continuing to reevaluate where I am. So I love that you hit on that, and that already is popping up for you. So fantastic. Anyone else want to share? Which of those areas do you feel like would make the biggest difference for you? And do you have an idea of maybe something that would include in this next year?
I do.
Go ahead.
Actually, all of them, but I would probably start off, I've been really wanting to work on my faith more and more. And it's something that I've been trying to work on for quite some time and just haven't been aligning myself for some reason. I'm not sure why or what's holding me back. And along with, my finances, it's just been, I've struggled my whole entire life. So I think along with the faith will come the rest of them.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's just something that I really want to get aligned with.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I love how you're seeing that faith is foundational for you, right? That's my foundation one too. And I know that I can try and do all these things in these other areas, but if I'm not solid in my faith and my relationship with God and knowing that I'm created for greatness and a purpose and that there's something bigger than me, and this is life is not all there is, then it's really easy to get caught up in the weeds of all the stuff and all the doing and all of that versus the being, because I'm loved and accepted just who I am. So I love that you're seeing that, because it does. It can lay that foundation for everything else to build.
Yeah, I think finding what my purpose is I still haven't found that, and I think that's kind of causing a lot of issues as well. So
if you don't know what your purpose is, you get up in the morning, you're like, well, I'm just doing one day after the next. I don't really know where I'm going, right? So that's so foundational. And
yeah,
And I was just going to say, oh, and I just lost the other thing I was going to tell you that to encourage you in that area. Hold on, let me think, see if I can pull it back. I hate when that's like right there, and I'm like, yes, yes. I was going to say, most people don't think about setting goals for their faith, like specific goals. And we've talked about in some of our previous workshops how to set a SMART goal, specific, measurable. I've never before set measurable goals for my faith because it felt like faith was this big thing. How can I measure it, right? But that's why I hadn't really been making progress towards it. And so that may be one thing that you may find is that you've never really set concrete goals that are specific, measurable, accountable, so that you can measure if you're doing it and you can be accountable to someone else, realistic and time bound. So right now, one of mine is reading my Bible, and I'm working through a Bible reading plan. And so I'm going to do that every day, every 2 chapters, 5 days a week. And so that's very measurable, right? And there's so much that comes out of that, but that's that habit that I'm tracking, that goal that I'm tracking to really be on top of it. So that may be something for you, just, starting to set goals in the area where you maybe never set a goal before. And that's why we don't go anywhere, right? Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else who's on live want to share which of these areas would make the biggest difference for you this year? And what might that look like? Here's the deal, you guys. And I'm not saying this about anybody who's on who hasn't shared. I'm just going to say this in general. Most people don't know, right? Most people, like you said, Kelly, are walking around aimlessly. They have no idea what their purpose is. They have no idea what their goals are. They don't have any dreams for their life. This was me. I told this story. I need to go back and see how long ago it was now. It had to have been at least 10 years ago, maybe a little more, where my husband asked me, what are your goals and what are your dreams? And literally I was like, I don't have any. And he kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me like, well, what do you mean you don't have any dreams? What do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. When did I ever stop to think about it? When did I have time to think about me? Was there money left for me? I don't know. What does it matter what I want? Like, it's just, it's me serving our family. And I started eventually getting to the point where I was crying because I was so like, I don't have goals, but that's because I hadn't ever stopped to really think about it. Right. And so people may know what their goals are, right? But oftentimes they haven't written them down, right? Or they can't tell you specifically. It's just, I want to get healthy. I want to have more faith. I want to have better finances, right? Those kind of, they sound great, but what does that look like? And that's why people don't go anywhere, right? So the first step we're going to start with is the thinking, is the dreaming abundantly. Okay. So when you hear the word abundance, if you're thinking of dreaming abundantly in your life, what do you think what does that mean to you? What comes to mind? Just throw out like 1 or 2 words. Abundance.
Having all you want.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone? Any other ideas?
Yeah, so many things for me. I think more specifically with my brain in, traveling a lot, because that's something that I didn't do for a very long time. So dreaming abundantly about where I would like to go. And then, the physical stuff really doesn't do it for me so much anymore. Last year, I thought I wanted a big house. And then my husband, who is, like my rock, said, if we get a bigger house, then you won't be able to retire. So I thought about that for a minute, and then we stayed in our nice little cozy house and I retired.
Right.
So, so the abundance of time and ability and freedom probably to really do what I want to do, which includes travel and family and friends and all of that. So
they can be
definitely shifted.
Yeah, they can be material things, they cannot be material things. And it's not wrong or bad if you go towards money, because that's what will give you the freedom, right? Or if you go towards a better house because what you're living is not conducive or whatever, like those things are not wrong or bad. I liked how Danny said, it's having more than enough, right? So it's abundance we think of as more than, like it's the pouring over. If that pitcher is pouring into my glass and my glass is overflowing, that's abundance, right? And I think a lot of people just tie it to things like money and time. Right. But living abundantly and dreaming abundantly can include creating a meaningful life, being a part of an influential network, right? Of those close friendships that you were talking about, pursuing your passions, like knowing what your purpose is and pursuing that purpose and those passions, being financially secure, feeling your best, right? In your body, feeling your best in this, right? Doing good in the world and feeling like you're making an impact and leaving a legacy. And, those are all things that are part of an abundant life. It's not just, like you said, the material things. Yes, Kathy, giving, like being able to be generous, right? And, I want to remind you guys that you are more capable than you realize, right? You may think right now, oh, I don't have abundance and I don't know that I ever will. Maybe that's where you are. You are more capable than you realize. I just wrote this down on my post-it the other day because I had a moment. I shared with some of you this in a text earlier this week where I had a moment where I was not feeling abundant. And so I wrote this down and it's sitting on my computer now. It says, I am called, I am equipped, I am capable. Now go live that out. And I felt like that's what God was telling me when I was getting stuck and all I could see was this situation right in front of me, right? Okay, you know what? One thing can change everything, right? My faith, working on that area, like you talked about, Kelly, can change everything. One connection, right, can spark something totally different. And so what abundant dreamers do is they act small, but they dream big, right? They're not just like, oh, I only think I can go this far, right? But they keep dreaming big and then taking those small actions towards that vision. So you may have heard this question asked before in a book, at a workshop, in a great post that inspired you. But, I want to ask this question that you may have heard over and over again, but I really want you to think about it this time. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? Because I think one of the things that holds us back from abundance is oftentimes our own fears, right? Our fear of failure, our fear of not being enough, our fear of what other people are going to think or say. What would you do if you knew you could not fail, right? If you had that abundance, if you had what you needed to do that, what would that big thing be? And that may be what's tied, Kelly, to your purpose, right? Oftentimes it's that, what is that in me that if there weren't any restrictions holding me down, this is what I would just, I want to, live my life towards.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a question I want you to think about, right? And start visualizing, what would my life look like if I was doing that? What would I be? Who would I be, really, I guess is the proper way to say it. Who would I be if I was truly doing that thing? What would I have, material wise and immaterial wise? What would I do on a day-to-day basis? Maybe it's getting healthier and stronger. Maybe it's resolving a lifelong family conflict. Maybe it's creating that intentional friend circle or moving into your dream field or retiring like Kim has done, right? Maybe it's eliminating debt or building wealth. Maybe it's having a disciplined faith walk or having more fun or finding your purpose. What would you do if you knew you could not fail, and what would your life look like? So I'm going to give you, here's where we get into workshop mode. So grab your piece of paper and I want you to grab a pen, because writing creates images in your brain. Images in your brain lead to thinking, like really thinking. I think most people don't really know how to think. We're going to go into the thinking part next, which leads to feelings, which leads to doing. Right? So I want you to visualize those details of you doing that thing that you would do if you knew you couldn't fail, right? Of you having that abundant life. We're going to take one song worth, it's like 3 minutes and 42 seconds. You can write in paragraph form. You can write in bullet point, whatever. You could draw a picture, right? I just want you to take the next 3 or so minutes to just start putting that dream down. What would you, use your senses. What would you see, hear, smell, touch, taste? Who would be a part of it? What would you be doing? When, where, why? Like, just as much detail as you can. I want you to put that down. Okay? I'm going to wake my phone back up. I like putting a little music in the background because it kind of sets the tone.
Tide rushes over me. There's only one way to figure out. Will you let me drown? Will you let me drown? Right now, this is my desire. Consume me like a fire. 'Cause I just want something beautiful to touch. with. And for years I was scared of it. We can't be sure when it will subside. So I won't leave aside. No, I can't leave aside. And now this is my desire. Consume me like a fire. 'Cause I just want something beautiful inside me. I know that I'm married. 'Cause I am down on my knees and waiting for something beautiful. In a daydream, I couldn't live like this. I wouldn't stop until I found something beautiful. When I wake up, no, I won't lie. You know it's still not what I need. Something beautiful. This is my desire. Consume me like a fire. 'Cause I just want something beautiful inside me. I know that I'm married. 'Cause I am down on my knees and waiting for something beautiful.
Now, you may not have felt like you got it all down because maybe your dreams are really big, or maybe you felt like that was a lot of time, Lissa. And it only took me the first 30 seconds to write it down. But you know what? You got it started, right? You got it down on paper. So I want to open it up for anyone who wants to share about what was something that came out for you. Doesn't have to be your whole thing, it can just be one little piece of it. It can be kind of a big picture of it. What was something that came out for you?
Okay, this is Kathy. How are you?
Hey, Kathy. So glad you're here.
Yeah, hey, I would love to like have health retreats,
Hmm.
and teach people from, the beginning of the day to the end of the day what they need to do to look at themselves and satisfy themselves and pamper themselves and learn new ways of helping themselves and their family.
I love that. And retreats are so powerful. You get people away from everyday life, right? You take away the distractions, you take away all the demands, you take away all the, the things that tend to get in our way, or we allow to get in our way. And yes, you can really focus on those things. I love that, Kathy. That's fun. Make sure you invite me. Anyone else? Just unmute and start talking. Ooh, look at your list there, girl.
I am back to the Cat Cafe, but I wrote down, when I wanted to open it and where, and some of the classes that I wanted to do to get people to come in, and the 2 people that I want to work with. And so I got about half a page.
Yeah. And you know what's so cool, you guys, just so you know, Nikki and I have been talking about this for several months. So this is not the first time that she's done this piece of it, of kind of writing this out. But what's so cool, Nikki, is that I bet some of the things in there are probably different than the first time you thought it through, or the first time you wrote it out. As you are having conversations with people, as you're dreaming more, as you're doing research, as you're envisioning, right, that vision keeps growing. So this is something that's so good to keep coming back to over and over and over again. And it creates that clear picture in our head. Like we can see it. Like I can see your Cat Cafe, and I can see me sitting and holding my coffee and watching the cats play. Even though I'm not necessarily a cat person, I don't not like them, but I would come and have, because I enjoy the coffee and the environment and my friends, right? So Yeah, it gets that picture crystal clear in there, right? Love that. Anybody else want to share?
I'm gonna unmute this time before I start
Okay.
talking.
Right, it kind of helps.
So yeah, I ended up kind of writing a book here. So my big thing is just bringing wellness to people, through nutrition, supplementation, movement, meditation, and I'm with Kathy on the self-care retreat. So maybe we can talk more about that. And traveling, which I already said, building community. So I've had a vision. Once upon a time, someone said you should do a bed and breakfast. But what I really want to do is build a tiny home community. With a central building to meet and do all of these things. Education, I also once in my, I had an idea, I was going to revamp the entire public school system when I was young and idealistic. And then I realized, yeah, that's not going to happen. Now I think that actually more than ever needs to happen and just might. And then writing, I have a few books, but I'm going to start with a blog.
Okay.
And then all of the trying new things. Painting is something that I love to do, but I don't set the time aside. Rock climbing, parasailing, surfing.
Love that. So one of my friends is a fun coach, and she has this thing called One New Thing Project. And what she does is she challenges women to try one new thing a month. And it doesn't have to be the bucket list, of like going and doing some of the big things. Maybe it's just a new recipe. So the other night I got to do this like virtual cooking class. My friend invited me to it. I already happened to have the ingredients on hand because she kind of invited me just a day or two before. And so we were on Zoom cooking and whatever. So it was a different recipe than I'd ever done. I'd never done it with a chef like walking me through, something before, other people being on. And it was a really fun experience, So sometimes it can be as little as I'm going to put my left shoe on before my right shoe, because we just get in such habitual patterns of always doing the same thing. I'm going to drive a different way, to the grocery store. Or it can be a bigger thing of I'm going to go try, goat yoga. We were talking about that yesterday, or, just some of those different things. So that's fun. I love that. That's part of it. Anybody else want to share?
I will.
Okay, good.
Kim and Kathy, that retreat sounds absolutely amazing. I think that's that's great. I think it gives you a chance to get away and just kind of leave everything, and enjoy yourself. I think that's great. I would definitely try and open a successful business that something that I feel passionate about, and there's several things that I do feel passionate about. One is health and wellness, of course, and just I would want it to be, of course, successful like everybody does.
Right.
So that's.
And especially when it's in something like that where you're serving others and helping them to live well, that impact, right? As you increase your service, you increase your impact and you also increase your income, right?
Exactly.
So find that, what is that passion? What is that thing you could talk about all day long? What's that thing that really just fires you up? And if there's a conversation going on about it, you're kind of like, oh, hey, and you want to chime in. And how can you use that passion to serve others in an increasing way? And, and do that like through a business, right? That's a great way to do it. And I love that so many of us are focused on serving others in wellness. It's a piece of everybody who's on here today, that's a part of what we do. And that's really, that's a gift. So I love this whole retreat theme. And this is what's cool is that you may find connections as you do this and put your dreams out there, whether it's women who are on today or other women you come across, that then you might become partners, right? Or you may become accountability partners, or you may end up doing an event together, or just encouraging and inspiring one another. So, hey, you said that you wanted this. What have you been doing about that? Like, are you doing that? When's it happening? I think we need those people in our life. So my vision is to be like doing this, but like in a destination setting, like on the beach. So maybe Kelly, we're coming to you if you live by the beach in California. I'm not sure what part of, if you're near the coast or not, but doing this kind of thing where we get away from life and distractions and we really just focus on what's that purpose that God's given me to do. And we really take a look at our life and where things are and where we feel like we're being called to be. And we really commit to, take some time to get quiet and really listen and dream, right? And then really committing and leaving there with a plan. And then what I envision is it's going to be the type of thing that's not just a one-time thing. Oh yeah, I went to that event one time. That was great. but almost like a yearly thing. Like you're like, oh, these are my girls. I get together with them and, we talk about our year, we talk about our dreams and goals and what we've accomplished and what we're looking forward to the next year. And, and like it being something that's kind of like, it's a, like you said, a community, Kim, when you were talking, I think that would be phenomenal, because this is fun doing over Zoom, but it would be way better if you were here at the Figgy Farm, or if we were, some other destination place, or maybe at Kim's small house community. Maybe we can, work something out there or whatever. But yeah, so I want you to keep this paper somewhere where you're going to see it, where you're not just, it's not just going to get shuffled underneath more papers on your counter, right? Or on your desk, or closed up in a folder and put away somewhere. This is the kind of thing that we want to keep in front of us, right? And we want to keep adding to it, because as your brain keeps seeing this and picturing this and visualizing it, you will start getting to work on making this happen. That's how the brain works. It's a goal achieving machine. And so it always needs something in front of it to be going towards, right? So this next part you may not like. I'm just going to warn you right now, okay? So yeah, just writing it down is super powerful. And I've heard, my husband laughed at me when I said this the other day, I've heard there's something about when you write in blue ink, it helps to like get it even deeper into your brain. So whenever, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I now always write in blue ink. So nothing wrong with you if you're writing in black or purple or whatever. I'll have to look up the statistics and see if that's really true. But he was like, seriously, I'm like, well, hey. Okay, so this next piece is, we're not gonna take a whole song, I'm just gonna give you a minute. Okay, I want you to think about, where is your life now, right? I want you just to write down a couple of words or a couple of phrases. You just envision like what you would love, what you would do if you couldn't fail, right? What you would love for that to look like. So, and I want you to look at your life now as a news reporter. Just facts, not stories, not blaming, not shaming, not, would have, could have, should have, just a few either words or phrases. And we're not going to share this one, just so you know. Okay, nobody's going to share out loud what they wrote. But I just want you to kind of look at, okay, so where am I right now? Right? Where are things? How would I describe my life right now? And you may feel good about some things that are written down, and that's good, right? This isn't all doom and gloom, but maybe you're looking at some things on there and go, yeah, but that one thing, I'm not okay with that. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. I should say one thing real quick, stop, pause, because I was just thinking logistically about something I want to do. I want you to put this down near the bottom of that piece of paper, right? Or on a separate sheet of paper. Okay, so either on a separate sheet of paper or down near the bottom of the one where you just wrote what your dreams were. Okay, all right. Okay, I just want to ask you a question. As you're looking at that, how does it feel to see the difference? How does it feel to see the difference? You may be seeing growth, we're working towards that, so it may not be a negative thing, but maybe it's kind of like that, like, it makes you all the more not really want to, I'm not going to say not content or happy, right? But just not settled and saying, I want to stay where I am.
It's a reality check.
Okay, reality check, yes, right? Which we need that, right? How often do we actually stop to pause to say, where am I? Yes, I think you're right, Kim, right? You feel like you're getting there and not giving yourself enough credit for your progress. I think sometimes, we're doing, right? But we think it's not enough. And so then we're coming from that place of lack. Whereas if we really looked at it, and that's why it's so important to do these things on a regular basis, we can look and say, oh my goodness, look how far I've grown, even if it was just since 2 days ago, right? Or 2 weeks ago, or 2 months ago, or, a year ago, right? That's what's so important about this. And when we feel that difference, it's good to see a gap, because that's what will move us, right? when we see this gap between where I am and where I want to be, that's what will get us moving from where we are. And it's called cognitive dissonance, which is a fancy, like term for how the brain works. The brain gets uncomfortable with its current reality, right? And so it's going to work to create that new one, especially when that new one sounds and looks so much more amazing, right? But if the brain doesn't ever feel that cognitive dissonance, then it has nothing it's working towards. So my grandpa was amazing. He had this phrase that he used all the time, and I didn't understand it back then, and now I just have this new appreciation for it. He called it a healthy dissatisfaction. A healthy dissatisfaction. He always wanted to have a healthy dissatisfaction in his life, in his faith, in his relationships, right? That kind of dissatisfaction that says, I've not arrived yet, and I'm always learning and growing. And up until the day he died, he was learning and growing and discipling and doing things, right? He was not like, oh, okay, I'm retired and now my health is failing and now I'm done. Like literally up until the day he died, he was continuing to pursue what it was that God had called him to do, right? And so when we look at this daily, it gets that clear image in our brain, and the repetition, and the brain doesn't know the difference between what's really happening around us and if we've given it that clear picture. Right? How many times have you woken up from a dream and you're like, oh my goodness, that felt so real, right? Because your brain is envisioning every single part of it, right? So that's what we're talking about when it talks about dream abundantly. Now, I want you to do something before we move on, okay? If you're able to do this, I want you to take that portion of your paper, or if it was on a separate paper, and I want you to rip that part off. I'm just kind of like holding and you can't, you're going to just take your pen and you're going to mark through it really fast. Okay, so what we're going to do with this little slip of paper, these are my things that are my current realities, some of the ones that I don't want to keep hanging on to. Okay, and we're going to do this. Okay, I want it like, up in little tiny pieces, right? Or if you want to get really brave and have fun, you can burn it, right? But this is not who I am. This is going to lead into our thinking accurately, right? Because this is not the place I'm staying. And so I'm going to say, okay, this is where I've been up till now, but guess what? This isn't where I'm going. So I'm removing that, right? And now we want to talk about thinking accurately, right? So we want to have certainty that our vision will happen. How often have you, set a dream, but in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, but that will never happen. Yeah, but I don't think so. It never turns out the way you hope. I've tried before, right? Well, that's because of wrong thinking, right? So once we start dreaming abundantly, we need to start thinking accurately. And when we do, we will find the people, the resources, the opportunities that will help us to make that happen, right? So there's this thing that's very popular called the law of attraction. You heard of it? Okay. The idea is that what you think about, what you talk about, what you believe, what you feel strongly about, you're going to bring it about. That's what's going to happen. Right? Now, here's the thing, if in working with the law of attraction, that most people won't dream abundantly, right? So they're not going to be attracting those things that are going to help them to grow beyond, right? Because they can't think beyond the results they've always had. They're like, this is how it's always been with my finances. This is how this relationship has always been. This is how my health has always been, right? And so most people are not going to dream abundantly because they can't see beyond the results. They can't visualize, they can't use their imagination and envision what it could be, right? So there are 3 types of goals. You may have heard me talk about these before. They're A goals, B goals, and C goals. So A goals are the goals you can do. My easy example is lose 5 pounds. I'm guessing everybody on this call has at some point in their life lost 5 pounds. Good for you, right? That can make a big difference. I'm not saying it's not a good goal, but that is one that you can do. So if you stepped on the scale this morning, you didn't quite like the number, you know what? I need to lose those 5 pounds. Okay, it's just a matter of deciding and doing, right? You've already done it before, you can do it. Type B goals are the ones you think you can do. So say you've never lost more than 5 pounds before, right? And so now you're looking at that scale and you're like, 5 isn't going to be enough. I really need to lose 10 or maybe even 15. Right? So you haven't done it before, but you've done the 5. So if I do what I did for the 5 and then I do it again, right? Or I just step things up, or I do it for longer, or, I think I can strategize it. I can figure it out, right? Those are pretty safe goals, type B goals. Type C goals are the ones that you have no idea how you're going to do it. This is I'm going to lose 50 pounds, 75 pounds, 100 pounds. That's really far away from 5. And you might have worked really hard to get those 5 pounds off. So you might be looking at that goal of 75 pounds and going, oh my word, how in the world am I going to do this? Right? Those are the kind of goals we need to be going towards, because here's what happens. When we do type C goals, now we are required to become someone new. A and B goals, you've done it before. It's just the same thinking, the same habits, the same actions, just being intentional, right? Type C goals, that's going to require you to be somebody new. I like to call myself Goal Achieve Lissa, right? So Goal Achieve Lissa, who's done that big thing that was way beyond anything that she can do. Okay, that's how we need to start seeing ourselves, right? Because our self-image is tied to something called our paradigm. And our paradigm controls like 98% of all of our thinking and our behavior and our results, right? Most of what we do is habitual. You do not think about every single little thing you do, but every single little thing you do has a result, which has gotten you to where you are, right? So our paradigm is like all these habits in our subconscious conscious mind that have gotten us to where we are. And guess what they also do? Kim Possible. I love it. I love it. Kim Possible. That's awesome. They keep us where we are, right? Because if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to keep getting, right? The same, what we keep getting, right? And it's like that whole thing. What's the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. Like, it's not going to happen, right? So we have essentially 2 parts of our mind. I mean, there's lots if you look scientifically, but essentially 2 parts that matter to us today. One is our conscious mind. We take in the information from the environment around us, right? Our 5 senses, right? So it helps us to react to things around us. But then our subconscious mind is really who we are, that determines how we see those things, how we see life, and what we do with it. So here's why people reach that plateau or get stuck. Because habitual thinking leads to habitual doing, which leads to getting the same results, right? Have you ever felt like, gosh, it's always the same. It's always like this. It's always, right? So think about what, maybe it's with weight. What's the least you've ever weighed? You might've hung out there for a really long time, or not for very long, sorry. Like you kind of get like, okay, I'm here, but I want to get further, right? But I keep just kind of running up against this place. Or another one could be your income. And it could be like the most you've ever earned. Maybe the most you've ever earned is like $36,000 a year, right? And it's like you just keep, it's like it's almost like I can't go beyond that, right? Or that relationship that's like every time this person comes around, every time we get together, every time I have a conversation, it's always drama, right? That's because of our paradigm that's habitually thinking and then doing all these things, right? And so you can't get past that place until you change your paradigm, which means you have to understand what it is and how it's formed and how to change it. And here's the thing. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not very good at changing things that are habitual that I don't even notice. Anybody else? How often have you watched somebody else and you can see, they say they want to lose those 5 pounds or maybe 15, right? And yet you see them having their ice cream every single night, right? And that's just their habit and they don't even see it, right? But you from the outside can look in and be like, hey, you've got this habit of having a big bowl of ice cream every night. That's not working you. That's what's, keeping you where you are, right? But it's almost like we can't even see it because it's just how we've always done things, right? And so I truly believe that if you want to change your paradigm, you can't do it on your own. It's going to take 2 things. It's going to take practice, repetition, like literally over and over and over and over and over again, right? Like, how did you learn your name when you were a kid? Your parents kept calling you that name and calling you that name and calling you that name and calling you that name. And eventually you realize, oh, hey, that combination of letters is me. So I should pay attention when I hear that, right? Same thing like with our dog, right? Like, how do they learn their names? How do they learn the commands of, what we're asking them to do? It's because of that repetition, 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 right? And then having, someone else outside of you, ideally a coach, somebody that can see your blind spots, somebody that can help you really get beyond, start thinking beyond that. Right? Because otherwise we just keep bumping up against that same barrier and we just keep staying in that same place. So we talked about dreaming abundantly. Now we talked about thinking accurately. Do you see how thinking accurately is the key if you want to be able to live out the dreaming abundantly? And if you want new results? Otherwise, we're just going to get stuck. And here's the thing is so many people, again, New Year's Eve, raised their glass, but they didn't change their thinking in the last 14, 15 days. And so guess what? They're only going to get so far. So maybe they made some little bit changes, right? But have they really changed their paradigm? Have they really changed? Are they thinking from goal achieved or Kim Possible or whatever you're going to call that goal achieved self? So I actually give a name. I call goal achieved Lissa is like where I'm going, who I want to be one day, right? So like, how would she think, act, believe, whatever now? I talk about my old paradigm is missing. Because if you knew me growing up through me graduating from high school, I was called Missy, because my name is really Melissa, which is where Lissa comes from. So Missy is my old paradigm. So when those voices or those old thoughts or those old habits come in, now I can recognize them and be like, not today, Missy, and I can shoo her away, right? But it takes that change of thinking. And I'm still having to work with her because she still keeps popping up there, right? But I keep focusing on goal achieve Lissa and where I'm going. So the last section is act acceleratingly. Here's my made up word, right? How would it feel, looking back at that vision you wrote, how would it feel to get there faster than you'd expect? Like, not only to get there, like, oh yeah, I know someday if I keep working towards this, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I'll get there. And I'm not talking that, I'm talking like in the next year. If that cafe was opening its doors the next year, Nikki, you would have a gigantic smile on your face, right? And you'd be inviting everybody you knew to come to your grand opening, and like, wow, Kathy, if you were doing those retreats within this next year, right? Like, how amazing would those be? Kim, if you're waking up every day going, I have these great friendships, right? I'm investing in these women and these people in my life and really making a difference, right? Or Kelly, if you're waking up, and say, I know my purpose. My old self didn't know it, but I do now. And so every day I'm making choices based on that. Like, that would feel amazing, right? And so the law of attraction is not enough, right? Somebody who just says, if I sit here all day and I just think, right? Here's what I want, do some yoga poses, whatever. Like, no, that's not going to get you there, right? Dreams and intention don't get you very far. That's why most people fall off by this time in January. You have to put the law of attraction together with the law of action, right? But the law of action has to come from the place of your change paradigm, right? It has to come from the place of goal achieved Lissa. How does she act now? What are her habits? What are her thoughts? What are her beliefs? So I keep acting like Missy, I'm going to keep getting the results that Missy had, which is right where I am, right? Because you are where you are today because of the thoughts and the actions and the beliefs that you've had up until now. So good, bad, or indifferent, that's how you got here, right? Which means if you want to go somewhere else, you're going to have new or different thoughts, beliefs, and actions to become that, right? And here's where it's going to get really, really important about daily looking at your goals and having that clear vision so that okay, hey, this is my big vision. What can I do today? What am I going to do today that's going to work towards that? What friend am I going to call today if friends is at the top of my list and connect with? What person am I going to reach out to about their health and wellness that I could help them to make a healthier choice? What conversation am I going to have about that next step in, getting zoned for my, my thing that I want to open, my nonprofit, like that's where we start working towards that, right? But there are always these things called blockers that happen, right? Because we have this beautiful vision, right? We're not sitting on the beach. We're in real life, like things are happening, right? What gets in the way of your goal? Let me ask you guys, like, what are some of the things that get in your way when you've got something that you really want to do?
Time or lack of.
Okay.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say fear and just the lack of action, just like knowing what to do, but then not doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Procrastination.
Okay. Procrastination for sure. Right. We all, it was interesting, like with the time one, every single person on this planet has the same amount of time. And guess what? There are people on this planet who have made their dreams a reality. So we can say, I'm not picking on you, Nikki, I'm just using it as a good example. We can say that time is what's keeping us from doing it, but really it's not a time management problem, it's a self-management problem, right? We can say that life, right? There's so many things in life. Well, guess what? Everybody has life, right? And so, in any of these, really, I think it comes down to one common problem. So here are the top blockers that I found that keep us from doing things: fear, guilt, anger, self-sabotage, laziness, which could fit in with procrastination, maybe even envy of someone else, and like lack of focus. what do you notice that all of those have in common? Exactly. Kim's going right here. Me, right?
Yeah,
The
they're
problem is
all about
you.
me.
Guess what? We have a paradigm problem. Here's the deal. Most people think we have a reality problem. It's all these things around me. It's my time. It's the people around me. It's my circumstances. It's my income. It's my whatever. This is why I'm not doing this. But guess what? We do not have a reality problem outside here. In reality, we have a thinking problem. So let me say that again. We think we have a reality problem. In reality, we have a thinking problem. Are you seeing it? Right? So if you ever find yourself stuck, or you feel like you're just like, I don't have the results I want in this area, I'm going to just explain to you one quick little thing that you can do, right? First thing is push pause. My friend told the story the other day of a fly that's trying to get out the window, and guess what flies do, right? They go up to the window and they keep hitting the same place, right? And they keep just flying into it. Guess what? They're not going to get out. If that fly would step back and look, oh, wow, there's an open door right there, and they could be totally free. And yet the fly will keep banging its head against the same place in the window over and over and over again, until maybe eventually it moves far enough over that it, accidentally finds the opening. But don't we do the same thing, right? We keep banging our head against the same place. Life is always like this, right? Okay. So if you ever find yourself in a place where you are not getting the results that you're not getting the results that you want, first thing you do is you identify, what are those results I don't want? Is it my fluctuating weight? Is it that I'm still earning $36,000 a year? Is it that I have this toxic relationship? Like, get it down on paper so you can see it and write it out, right? And then you want to look at what are the things that I'm doing, saying, thinking about this? Because I guarantee that in there's a paradigm problem, which means that there is a paradigm solution, right? You could actually change if you look and say, what habitual things am I doing that could be leading to this? Yeah, maybe I'm having a bowl of ice cream every night. Maybe it needs to be a smaller bowl, or maybe I just need to not buy the ice cream, right? Not have it in the house, so I only have it when I go out, right? But I think sometimes there are things, so if you ever find if you're in that stuck place and you're the fly, boom, 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 I can't see, right? Take that step back. What am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I saying, right? And then you can change those non-productive actions or attitudes or thoughts into productive ones, right? So you don't just want to take them out, because then you leave this void. We want to replace it with something positive. And so that is a system that you can use for any area of your life that you feel like you're just like banging your head against the window and you're in that same place. Okay. Now here's the good news. There are things that tend to block us. There are also things that can speed things up. So we talked about act acceleratingly. Okay. So there are ways to speed things up and get there faster than you'd expect. And I love this phrase. I keep hearing this over and over lately, doing it with ease and grace. Doesn't that just sound great, right? Not like I'm just going to work harder, because that's what Missy would do. She would just work harder. She would just, okay, well then I'm just going to reach out to this many more people, or I'm just going to do this many more posts, or I'm just going to do this much more, whatever. And if I do more and more and more, I'll make it work. And guess what? I only get so far. So here are the top accelerators: gratitude, love, discipline, integrity, passion, humility, and wisdom. Interesting. Did you notice the common thread? As Kim would say,
It's still me.
it's still me. Exactly, right? Which is good news, because guess who gets to control you? You. It's not about these circumstances changing. It's not about your boss coming to you and saying, I'm giving you a raise and that's going to change my financial future. It's not about suddenly, the weight dropping off, or that person that has been this toxic relationship, all of a sudden they have a complete shift of mind, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry for all these things and how I've hurt you and whatever. Like, those things may happen someday, but they may not. Guess what? The solution is in the paradigm and the self-image, right? So here's another little tool I'm going to teach you that has been so instrumental for me. Okay, if you want to help change your paradigm, this is what you start doing. So you look at that area just a minute ago that you were the fly hitting your head against the window. Boom, boom, boom. Same place, same thing, same thing. Okay, you've taken a step back. You've looked at, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I saying? Now you write down the results you want, right? And you do it in this format. I'm so happy and grateful now that ... So maybe it's, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm a consistent weight. And maybe you get really specific. I'm that consistent 180 pounds, if that's what your goal is, right? Or whatever it is. Maybe it's that I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year, right? Let's dream abundantly, right? It doesn't have to just stop at 50. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have a thriving relationship with this person, right? And then that thing, you start repeating, you read and repeat, literally, you could, there are two ways that we change our thinking. One, emotional impact. Life happens, diagnosis, loss of a loved one, crisis, usually negative, usually out of our control. The second way to change your paradigm is repetition. And putting that together, like I said earlier, with coaching, right? So you start writing that out. I mean, you can do the old school way of, you know, back in school when you got in trouble and you had to write that sentence, I will not write on my, you know, desk, you know, like 50 times. Guess what? There's actually something about that. I know you kind of probably shook your head and you were there like, really, this is annoying. But guess what? If you wrote out that I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning $100,000 a year, you wrote that out a whole page every day. I guarantee if you did that for 30 days, you'd be thinking differently, right? Or you say it out loud in the mirror, like you can see yourself, right? Now your paradigm right now is going, Leslie, you're crazy. That is so dumb. I'm not going to do that. Okay. That's your paradigm talking, right? That's what's gotten you to where you are, which is fine. But every single person here has said, I don't want to stay exactly where I am. So that's going to be a change of thinking. Okay. And that's why we also ripped up that part of our paper, right? Who was that old girl? We don't want her results, right? We don't want that life and those results. We're moving on. Okay. We're replacing it with this. And then in the beginning, you're not going to believe yourself, right? No way I can earn $100,000 a year. Are you kidding me? Right? But then your brain starts going, well, what if I could? What would be possible? How could I do that? Oh, here's an opportunity. I wonder if that could help me with that. Oh, here's something I didn't realize I had that. What if I invested that? Could that help with that? Oh, look at all this stuff in my house. Could I sell that? You know, then your brain starts getting to work on all that instead of sitting on the couch going, woe is me. I never have any money. Right. So it follows the law of action comes in there. So really the only thing that's missing to change your paradigm and achieve your results is having direction. Right. And I know when I started coaching or started someone coaching me, I mean, like when I started with my first coach, like I remember her saying to me, Lissa, you've been working really hard. And I was like, yes, I have. Tears flowing down my face, right? I'm stuck in the same place. You know, she's like, it's going to be impossible for you to shift the results on your own, right? And I was seeing this, I was totally seeing this on my own. I was getting results, right? They were small incremental ones, right? I was going, but I was working way too hard. And I did that for way too long. And I literally was burned out and I was exhausted and I was frustrated. And I was like, seriously, this is not how I want to keep living. But I didn't want to go back to maybe working full-time for somebody or, you know, the opposite of what I was working towards. Right. And so I was that fly in the window, bam, bam, bam. Right. And I ran across this quote this summer, never DIY your greatest priorities. And it's just like, wow, why do I think I can take on the world and do all of this stuff? Right. I needed somebody else to help transfer knowledge and belief into me, because I don't always have it myself. Even like I said, a couple of days ago, you know, I did not feel like I could do what it was that I was working to do, right? And so because this is a new life, right? Because this is something we're going towards, we will never have arrived. We're never done. And I don't say that in a way to make you think like, you know, but almost like an exciting way. Like imagine what you can do if you just keep going in this direction, right? And so that's why when you have the right direction, you can hit new levels or do new things, right? Because you may not like where things are and you may get things to a place that you really, really love. But what if you want to take things to the next level, right? To the next level, to the next level. So once you get the right direction, so that you're changing your thoughts and your thinking from goal achieved, you know, to goal achieved Lissa or Kim Possible, right? Now your habits are gonna align with that, your new habits, right? And your results are gonna happen faster. What we do is we try to create new habits with old thinking, and guess what? They don't fit. Doesn't fit together. And so what happens? Those new habits don't stick, right? Because we still have that same thinking, right? So before we end, I just want to ask you guys a couple questions. Scale of 1 to 10. When you look at what you wrote down in your paper, how serious are you about achieving your dream life or your goal? And you can keep that number to yourself. You don't say it out loud. I mean, you can say out loud what it is. Yeah, that's great. That's great, right? But I want you to say to you, or even write it down. I want you to see that number. And it's okay if it's not a 10, right? If it's a 5, then what that's saying is, you know what, this is something that is meaningful to me, but I have a lot of things in the way right now that I really need to do some thinking changing. You know, if you're putting down a 1, okay, it probably doesn't really matter to you, you know, and so you're probably not going to do anything about it. You know, but I don't think we ever, I mean, you know, we can say we're a 10, but there's still always this part of us. So I just want you to say whatever number you put down, that's okay, right? Because that's where you are right now, and that's being honest with yourself. So then I want you to think about, so now you've got your number, how serious you are. What would be different about your life or your health or your business or your relationships when you have that, when you do that? I want you to think about that, right? What would her life look like? Like if you were living this, how would that change things for you? If this were true today, you were coming home from that health and wellness retreat, you just did this amazing retreat with a bunch of women. How would you be, what would your life be like today? Right? And I know, I believe, but I also know that if you put together the right thinking and changing that paradigm within the action that's going to follow up with that, you can. And the really cool thing is it's not about just reaching that one thing. It's about who you become in the process as you become her, right? That's really what they say. The purpose of a goal is who you become in the process, not just reaching the goal. You become that girl who achieves her goals. You become that girl who dreamt abundantly, right? And thought accurately and acted acceleratingly, right? And guess what? If you can do that in one area of your life, that's going to start spilling over into other areas of life, right? Like, how's that going to affect your marriage? How's that going to affect your relationship with your grandkids? How's that going to affect the legacy of what you're leaving to others, the impact you're making in your community, you know, your faith community and how you're influencing them? And like, it has like all this far reaching effect. So I hope you're leaving feeling really, really encouraged about what's possible, right? And what you can do. So before we go, I've got a gift for you. And then I've got something really important to make sure to share with you. So if you already know that you want support and community, if you were on our Thursday call, you've heard that we are starting our first group coaching program. It's a 10-week program, but I am attaching some one-on-one coaching to it to make it a 12-week program. But we are there's going to be 7 coaches with different expertises in the 7 different areas. We're going to have 10, so you'll do some coaching with me, and then we'll have the 10 modules together as a group, and then we'll have some more coaching on the end. But we're going to really deep dive into each one of these areas. So it's not just this surface look at, you know, okay, well, here's what it could be or whatever. I really want you to kind of get that picture of what you want it to be. And we are going to be starting, we have a meet and greet on Tuesday, which is what, the 18th, I think it is. And then we are going to, I'm gonna put this in the chat so you guys have this. And then we are going to be actually kicking off on the 25th. So if you are curious about it, you can, I'm gonna put some links here in the comments. And so you can go and get some information. The first one is gonna be, let me go ahead and put the one that's like learn more part in here too. Okay, so if you wanna learn more about it, I can't type and talk at the same time, so. Okay, so that last one will take you if you want to learn more. If you already know you want to be a part of that group, you can go ahead and click on the one that's called Rebalance Group Coaching, and you can join us. Okay, so that's going on. If you're like, okay, I for sure want to really be working in these areas and be intentional and do this in community. There's such value, right, in that. My gift to you as being a part of this event and this workshop is to as a free goal achieve success call, right? Like on that, we'll really talk about where are you, right? What do you desire, and how can you get there faster? And how can working together, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in that group, like what could that look like? And how could that help you work towards that? So I put the link for that. It's listafiggins.com/success. Go ahead and grab a spot. Like, let's have a conversation about really moving you towards what you want and what's going to help you with that. And here's what I'm just going to say. If your paradigm is getting in the way right now, right? Because you're saying, I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have any more energy. I have no more bandwidth. Anybody ever say those things when you've got something sit in front of you, right? Like, you can still get started, like dip your toes in with the inner circle. Some of you are already in the inner circle, right? The inner circle is where we are, it's more of a self-paced thing, and we're starting somewhere. Because I want you to go back to that number. If it really matters to you, unless you said 1 or 2, 3 or 4, you definitely need to kind of maybe get more committed. But if you said, I really want these things to happen in my life from a 5 on up, then you want to start doing something, right? So you can click on that link that says inner circle, and that'll give you some more information about that. But here's what I want to leave you with. From here on out, I want you to start thinking about, how does goal achieved Susan think, believe, act? How does goal achieved Nikki think, believe, act. How does goal achieved Kathy? How does goal achieved Kelly and Kim think, believe, and act when she's living that dream life, right? I can't wait for you to meet her in the mirror one day, because as you're working towards that vision, that dream, that goal, you're gonna meet her, right? You're gonna see her, you're gonna see glimpses of her. And then one day you're gonna stop and look back and be like, look at the things I wrote down, right? That's why there's so much power in writing things down. And one day you're gonna look back and say, oh my goodness, look where I am. This is exactly what I wrote on that day back in January of 2022, that I said I wanted to do. So I'm excited to be on this journey with you, and so grateful for the fact that you've joined us live or watched the replay, and here to help support you, right? In any way that I can. So I'm going to stop the recording, and then if anyone who's on live has questions or comments or thoughts or things that you want to talk or share or whatever before we go, we'll do that.